What is going on, Crimson Tide fans? We're talking to Alabama running backs today. So I want to hear from you guys. Will Alabama's running back room be better in 2025? If you guys think they will be, hopefully every single person watching this video today thinks Alabama's running back room will be better this coming season than it has been the past couple of seasons. If you do, go ahead and like today's video for me right now. Like I said, we are talking about the running back room today, going through our position-by-position breakdowns. We're going to just be talking about where things sit right now with the running back room. Who's going to be running back 2 and or running back 3 for Alabama? Is it going to be a three-headed monster like we had a couple of seasons ago? And we're also going to be talking about the future of the running back room, what Alabama already has committed in the 2026 recruiting class. Go ahead and breaking it down real quick. First, the running back room as is. Jalen Milroe, definitely going to be your running back 1 this year. I think one of the biggest things that, Kalen DeBoer really talked about a lot last year was the fact that Alabama's running back room was really, really banged up throughout the season. They kept saying that, but they weren't banged up enough to put them on the injury report. So I don't know if I totally buy it, to be completely honest with you guys, but needless to say, Alabama's running back room last year kind of fell short, I think, of expectations. It didn't really help that you had your quarterback last year with the most carries and the most yards on the ground for you. You're really taking up a lot of those, carries from those running backs. But I think going into this season, man, Jalen Milroe, whoever running back 2 is going to be, Richard Young or Daniel Hill, I think Alabama's going to have a really, really good year as long as that offensive line continues to also get better. I don't think that helped them last year very much either. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, will Alabama have a 1,000-yard rusher in 2025? Let me know what you guys think at the pinned comment. Type Y for yes or N for no. All right, like I said, last year, your running back room was not very good, to be honest with you guys. Jalen Milroe, with the amount of carries that he got, I thought he was pretty damn good. Same with Justice Haynes, too, but it was just a matter of, keeping guys like Justice Haynes on the field. He just was not able to consistently stay on the field. And like I said, with Jalen Milroe also taking up 168 carries for you last year, that didn't help the running backs either. Going into this season, you're going to need to replace between Jalen Milroe and Justice Haynes at least 1,000 yards of, rushing yards between some of these running backs this year. I think Ty Simpson he's going to rush a little bit. But he's definitely not going to rush for over 700 yards. He's definitely not going to get over 100 carries. I think Ty Simpson probably runs in the range of 250-ish yards or something like that. I think it's going to be mostly scramble type stuff for maybe some RPOs and read options and things like that just to keep the defense guessing. But the rest of this running back room really does need to step up, and it needs to come from the running backs. And one thing about your leading running back this year, Jalen Milroe, he's a guy that can also catch the ball as well, and I think that's going to be very valuable in this Kalen DeBoer offense. Catching the ball out of the backfield. Jalen Milroe, past couple of seasons, we have seen him catch some of those, wheel routes out of the backfield, especially against Georgia in the SEC championship game a couple of years ago. I think he might have even had one against Texas, but I know against Georgia the past couple of years, he has, caught some touchdowns out of the backfield as well. And I think he can be very, very versatile out of the backfield. But my biggest question going into this year is, what will the snap share look like for that running back 2 and running back 3? We talked about the fact that Alabama's running backs last year just could not stay healthy, and they could not stay on the field. In particular, talking about Justice Haynes, he's at Michigan now, and I honestly think they're probably going to utilize him a little bit better than what Alabama utilized him last year. But, I think kind of what's going to happen next year, just my prediction, my total guess right here, Jalen Milroe's probably going to get about 50% of the carries, and then 25% each will probably go, to Daniel Hill and Richard Young. Kind of how they utilize those guys. I think it's going to be a big question, though, going into next season. This is what Ryan Grubb said about Daniel Hill during the springtime. He said, and then there's Daniel Hill. I thought was one of the guys that maybe stood out as much as anybody this spring. I thought he did a really nice job. He's a physical runner, very nimble for how big he is. He can stick his foot in the ground and get vertical. Excellent pass catcher out of the backfield and showed a lot of toughness throughout the spring. I thought he really showed up quite a bit and improved as much as anybody else out there. The biggest question is Daniel Hill, or it's going to be between Daniel Hill and Richard Young for that running back 3 spot. Who gets more carries? Who's going to be more efficient with the football? Who's going to have the hottest hand? I think that's going to determine who ends up being running back 2 for Alabama this season. So let me know once again down in the comments section, who do you guys think gets more carries coming up here in 2025? Type DH if you think it's going to be Daniel Hill, or type RY if you think it's going to be Richard Young. All right, let's talk about some other guys here as well. You have Dre'lyn Washington. You got him out of the transfer portal. You also got A.K. Deere, another top 100 running back. And Kevin Riley as well is a guy that is probably kind of been forgot about a little bit, honestly, even though he was also a top 100 recruit a couple years ago. We'll talk about him here in just a second. But first, I want to touch on Dre'lyn Washington a little bit. I think, getting him out of the transfer portal, he's got over 1,300 rushing yards. I think he's going to be a guy that, unfortunately, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is his last year of eligibility. I think he's just going to be more of a depth piece for Alabama this year. A couple months ago, I talked about, the running backs as well and said that I think he's going to get a little bit of run with Alabama. And somebody called me crazy. He's going to be like running back 2 for Alabama. And I just honestly, as we sit right now, I just do not see that. It's not to say that I don't like him, as an athlete, as a running back, as a person, anything like that. I just think with the way Alabama's running back room is set up right now, with Jam Miller, with Richard Young, with Daniel Hill, those 3 guys really do seem like the lead backs to me. Do I think Dre'lyn Washington can play some? I still am in that bucket of, he's going to play a little bit next year, but unfortunately, I think, he's honestly probably going to be back to the 2022-ish maybe. I don't think, honestly, he gets more than 50 carries this season. I could definitely be wrong, but, I think, it's going to come down to injuries really playing a factor for Dre'lyn Washington to get, a significant amount of playing time this year for the Crimson Tide. So let me know in the comments once again, how many carries do you guys think Dre'lyn Washington will get here in 2025? Let me know what you guys think. I think it's going to be around 50, but if you think I'm crazy and you think it's going to be higher, let me know. That's totally fine. How many carries do you guys think Dre'lyn Washington will get next season? All right, back to Kevin Riley here. You guys remember in 2024, this kid was a top 100 recruit, the number 3 running back in the class, and I think a lot of people kind of forget that, just because of kind of how things have shaked out so far. He's from Tuscaloosa. He's from Tuscaloosa County and, kind of a hometown guy. I think he's going to get there eventually, but still think he's kind of in that same situation that I talked about with Dre'lyn Washington. I think going into 2025 at least, he's just going to be more of a, backup piece. I'm sure he's going to get a little bit of playing time, but I do think if Kevin Riley is going to get on the field this year, it's probably going to be towards the end of the season, or it's going to be in some of those garbage games, where whatever those end up being for Alabama this season. And then A.K. Deere, you got him out of last year's recruiting class. He's a 4-star, was a 5-star at one time. But, just another example here of Alabama going into the state of Mississippi, getting a big-time top 100 recruit away from, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. He was committed to Ole Miss at one time, ended up decommitting, took his official visit to Alabama, waited a couple weeks, and then ended up committing to Alabama. I think this is still kind of the same thing. 6'1", 200 pounds. He's going to get better. He's going to get bigger, but still think time is going to be a thing that really does help A.K. Deere in the next couple of seasons. Now to 2026, let's take a look at the future here. You have E.J. Crowell just outside that 5-star ranking there. And then you also have Javari Burnett. We talked on a video last week. Derek Cooper, the 5-star running back, also kind of hinted on social media about possibly coming to Alabama. I still Don't really think that's going to be the case there. It's just a money thing. I just don't think it's going to work out there because I'm sure E.J. Crowell's getting a pretty decent, chunk of change out of the revenue sharing and the NIL deals there. And then you're going to have somebody like a 3-star in Jahvaree Burnett who is going to be willing to take a little bit less to come to Alabama. And what's interesting, too, about Jahvaree Burnett was last year in his junior season was injured. He only played 3 games, but in those 3 games, he played really, really well. And you talk about the evaluation of this Alabama coaching staff. Seems like they've done a decent job of evaluating prospects so far, especially those, lower-ranked guys that get them on campus, they get them in camps, they get to see them in person, and you just got to put your trust in them. You got to be able to trust the process. It's something that Nick Saban talked about all the time, trusting the process. Alabama's had plenty of 3-stars, in the past that have gone on to be incredible NFL players. You think of Josh Jacobs. Alabama, called him minutes before he ended up committing to say, hey, we've got a scholarship for you. So there's plenty of guys out there who were 3-stars that ended up being really, really good players. That could definitely be the case there with Jahvaree Burnett as well. Now, if you guys made it to the end of today's video, we appreciate you guys. It really does help us out a lot for you guys to watch the entire video. And it also helps us out a lot if you guys like the video as well. So if you made it to the end of today's video, you are a real one. Help me out. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up icon for me right now.